Hi, thanks for watching the Down to Games rules video explanation for Kreo, or as it's going to be called when it's released in Q1 of 2017 from Cool Mini or Not, Kreus. This is a 3 to 6 player game that plays in about half an hour and retails for $20. It's a fully cooperative hidden information game that kind of plays like the Grizzled. In this game, each player takes on the role of a Titan, and you're all working together to make sure that you make the most beautiful, balanced version of the planet that you can. It's very fun and very, very hard to win. So let me show you how it works. When you go to set up Kreo, make sure you check the instruction manual for the amount of cards to add to the deck for the different player counts that you're using. I recommend you go with what they recommend for your first game as well. So, you'll take all the cards, put them all into the deck, shuffle them up, and deal out an even number to every player in the game. Whoever has the planet in their hand will take the start player card, and they will be the first player for the first round. What you're trying to do in this game is build these different nature cards in a tiered fashion until you finally get to the planet, and then successfully build the planet. And if you're able to do that, then you win the game. There's only one of each nature card in the game, so it's very important you play them at the right time and you don't waste them frivolously on something that didn't need to be done. So the way a turn works is each player will take cards from their hand and play one card face down. Then, in turn order, starting with the first player, each player will flip over their card and add it to the center tableau. There are 3 different types of cards in this game. The aforementioned nature cards come in 4 different tiers, and they start at the top with the atmosphere and the comet. Once these cards have been placed out, they have to be powered up by having element cards according to their colors played on them. Once they're fully powered up, then you can play the cards that they allow to be built next. Notice that each player is going to have a player aid, which will tell you what the requirements are for each tier 2 and then tier 3 card are. Then we get down to tier 4 in the planet. You only have to have 2 tier 3 cards to be able to build the planet. There are also the element cards, which come in 4 different flavors and a wild, and the aggression cards, which have to be played and are bad. You can't play them on the first or last turn of the game. That'll cause you to lose immediately if you have to do either of those things. The other major component in this game are energy tokens, which you should keep in mind but will become more useful later. These are how you share information with the other players. So I'm going to show you how a sample turn is played because that's the easiest way to explain this game. At the start of the game, after you've determined first player, you'll go around in turn order and take as many energy tokens from the limited supply as you want to take. Now, keep in mind that there is a limited supply, so if you take all of them, no one else can have any. After each player has taken their tokens, each player will play a card face down in front of them. When you play this card, doesn't matter, as long as they all are face down. Once everyone has a card in front of them, starting with the first player, you'll flip over each card in turn order and do whatever the card requires. So, this is the atmosphere. This is a good first play because it starts the tiered hierarchy for the nature cards. That's a pink element card, so it can get played under the atmosphere and power it up. That's an orange card, so, unfortunately, that card has to be discarded. It's very important to keep track of the cards that were discarded because counting cards is very important in this game. So knowing that we have 1 less orange fire energy to play is very important. However, if this player had instead played this blue card, then we would have the atmosphere fully powered up. And now we could play, for instance, the river as well, on this turn or a future turn, as long as the atmosphere was powered up before the river got flipped over. So, in turn order, if these were the cards in the player's play, then this would happen. The atmosphere gets flipped over. It's powered up by a blue card, powered up by a purple card. Yay! Now the atmosphere is fully powered. The river is flipped over, and we can play it because the river is allowed now that the atmosphere is powered up. And the final player plays a green card, hoping that the river or the comet had been played. So if the comet had been played, then this green card could have been played into the comet. You can always choose which card your element is played into. Then the first player will pass to the next player in clockwise player order, and everyone will play another card face down, and play will continue until the planet is successfully built or everyone runs out of cards. So if you're not allowed to tell the other players what's in your hand or what you're playing, this seems like this would be pretty impossible, right? Well, that's where these energy tokens come into play. For one energy token, you can show one other player one of your cards without saying anything. For 2 energy tokens, you could give a card to another player, and they have to pass a card back to you without either of you looking at which card is being transferred. For 3 energy tokens, you're able to swap one card from your hand with any card from the discard pile, which can be very useful. There's also another way to use nature cards. So, if you, for instance, know that you no longer need the wind, or you play it at a bad time, you can flip it over and use it as a wild and play it under any of the available nature cards that are already out. So I could say this is an orange, and now the comet's complete. However, there's only one copy of each nature card, so you have to be very careful when you do this. Now you might be wondering how you get more energy tokens. Well, there's only a limited amount in the game. So if there's any available in the pool, you either get one whenever you play a nature card as either a nature card or use it as a wild. You can also, in the divination phase, which is the phase where we play cards face down in front of us, you can discard an additional card from your hand to take an element from the pool into your player area. Now, the game might already sound kind of difficult, but there's also some red cards, aggression cards, that make the game even harder. There's 3 different kinds. There are thunderbolts, which have you discard one element from one incomplete nature card. So an incomplete nature card would be a card that has some of the elements complete, and that's a wild. So if this was on here and this got played, you'd have to discard this green because that's the only incomplete nature card out. However, if there were no incomplete nature cards, you wouldn't have to discard anything. There's also the Storm of Uranus. So this card is like a Thunderbolt, except that when it's played, it discards all the cards from all the incomplete nature cards. And if it doesn't discard at least one card, you have to pull it back into your hand. So you have to lose something when the Storm of Uranus is played. Then finally, we have the Hecaton Curies. The Hecaton Curies say that when this card is played, from here on out in the game, whenever an element card or another aggression card is played, they're immediately discarded and not used. The Hecaton Curies will stay in play until a nature card is played. So, if you can somehow tell people you're going to have to play this card, they can remove a couple of the aggression cards from their hand. And then make sure that someone knows so that they can get a nature card out so that the entire round isn't ruined. So with all of these forces working against you, if you manage to complete at least 2 tier 3 locations, you can then put the planet out, and then if you manage to fill the planet up as well, you will win the game. Congratulations, this is a very hard game to win. However, if the challenge wasn't hard enough for you, there's several ways to make the game more difficult. In conclusion, this is a light, fun, easy to teach game that has levels of subtlety and complexities that only build the more times you play it with the same group. If you like games like Beyond Baker Street and The Grizzled and Hanabi, then you're probably gonna like Kreo too. Thanks for watching.